All right, looks like we're back. All right.
Okay.
Well, for the second week in a row, my internet dropped out here. So for those of you who love to make fun of Spectrum / Time Warner Cable, there you go. They're my internet provider, and seems to be, well, this time of night it's 6:30 at night, and I think what's happening is everybody in my neighborhood's getting home from work, and everybody's turning on their Netflix at the same time, and it's just an incredible strain on the network, and it just drops out, and it seems to do this on a fairly regular basis now. So, so yeah. But anyway, we're back. And what were we talking about? We were talking about
the Jets,
Jets and Preds. That's right.
And Preds. That's right.
So yeah, and just to recap, I hadn't gone over the games yet, but let me pull it up here. All right, so Game 1 went to Winnipeg 4-1. Game 2 went to Nashville in double overtime, 5-4. Game 3 went to Winnipeg 7-4. Game 4 went to Nashville 2-1. So we're 2-2 at this point.
Yep.
Game 5 went to Winnipeg 6-2. And then Game 6 was the guarantee game for PK, and Nashville won that one 4-0, and that was just an all-around effort. And that made that game, the Winnipeg Arena was the quietest that I've seen it all throughout the playoffs. Once Nashville jumped out to a 3-0 lead, it was very quiet in that arena. Everybody was pretty much sitting on their hands for the rest of the game at that one. So that forces a Game 7, which will be Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern. And it should be a fun game. I'm going to make sure I watch it for sure.
Absolutely. Will be a great game.
So good. Well, let's move on to the Golden Knights and the Sharks.
Yep.
And that, for some reason, is not opening up on my... Hang on. Golden Knights Sharks. There we go. The link in my show notes didn't work. All right. So... this one obviously is over. Golden Knights have advanced, continuing the Cinderella season that they've been putting on. And this series went 6. Vegas won Game 1, 7-0 in a total blowout. I still can't believe that game was as lopsided as it was. And then Game 2 went to San Jose in double overtime, 4-3. Game 3 went to Vegas in overtime, 4-3. And then San Jose tied the series up with a 4-0 win against Vegas in Game 4. Game 5 went to Vegas, 5-3. Game 6 also went to Vegas, 3-0. So Vegas, after the 2-2 series tied, decided they were done, and they basically put away the Sharks after that.
Yeah. I don't have much to say, although I think that the San Jose Sharks didn't play impressively well for several games in that series. They played well in a couple games, the 2 games they won.
Yeah.
But they, I really think Vegas was head and shoulders above them in this series, and let it. They really manhandled San Jose in a couple of those games. And, that one, there was no doubt Vegas is a better team than San Jose at this point.
Absolutely.
That was the most conclusive series, even more so than the Boston-Tampa Bay series, which I felt, as I said, Boston had their chances in a couple of those games. This one, no. San Jose, they made a valiant effort and won a couple. I was really surprised they won, but they did play better than Vegas in those games. But Vegas was resoundingly better than they were.
Yeah, and one of those wins was obviously the double overtime win, so those games can go either way.
Right.
And then, the only one game of the whole series that San Jose was far and away the better team was that Game 4 4-0 win against the Vegas Golden Knights. Other than that, it was a struggle for San Jose, the entire series. So, yeah, Vegas is continues to play well, continues to. I don't know if they're surprising anyone anymore. I think everyone's expecting them to play as good as they are, and at this point, I mean, you get this far into the season, this far into the playoffs, it's no longer a fluke. They are a legit strong team.
Do you think, Wayne? I'm going to throw something at you.
Yeah.
Do you think that they are coming on in the Western Conference at the perfect time? You have the the descending aspect of the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that, they may show up again and get it back together next year. The Kings did this year, but you have a team in the Los Angeles Kings as well that has maybe reached their crest and come down from where they were.
Well,
and the only team you really see making a serious move up is in the last couple of years is the Nashville Predators, and you can put a star beside the Winnipeg Jets for a great year this year. But here's a team in Vegas that's coming on as these other major powerhouses that have carried the Western Conference for the last 7 or 8 years are descending, and they came on at the right time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I don't think this Vegas team would be able to beat the Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks. Those are some incredible teams.
Yep.
That were way better than everybody else. So, yeah, I would certainly agree with that. That the West right now is more wide open than it's ever been in the past. Just because you have teams like Chicago that have come down, LA who's come down. And then you've got other teams that are coming up. Winnipeg is playing better than they ever have before. Nashville, starting with basically last season, their playoff run and now have established themselves as a legit powerhouse in the West. So the West is certainly wide open, and to have Vegas come along is definitely they're seizing an opportunity there.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I really do. I think had you put them in 2 years previous, say in the 2015-16 season, I don't even know if they'd make the playoffs, but they certainly wouldn't. Both L.A. and Washington LA Chicago. And Chicago were playing lights out. Those two teams were dominating. And they're just not now.
Yeah, and you can include Anaheim in that, and San Jose was just was better. Was better in years past too. So yeah, there's definitely been kind of an equaling of the waters out there in the West, for sure. And Vegas is definitely taking advantage of that. So we'll see if they can make it continue. Their next opponent will be the winner of the Game 7 game, Nashville or Winnipeg. And either way, I think it will be by far the toughest test yet for Vegas, no matter who they end up playing.
Right, I agree.
Because we've been saying all along that the Predators versus Jets, both teams are better than the Golden Knights and the Sharks.
Yep.
And we're about to find that out if we're right on that.
Great.
So yeah, Vegas is awaiting the winner of that Game 7 game. And the games have already been announced. Round 3 starts Friday night.
Right.
With the Eastern Conference final between Tampa and Washington. That game's Friday night. The Western Conference series will begin on Saturday night. So whoever wins that Game 7 game, they get 1 day rest, and then it's right back on the ice for Game 1 of the next round on Saturday night. So it looks to be, with the conference final, I'm looking at the dates real quick. So 11th, 12th, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep. Alternating days. Pure alternating days. So it'll go Eastern Conference on Friday night, Western Conference on Saturday night, and then every game after that is every other night.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have one game a night for as long as these two series run. And then we go into the Stanley Cup final. So we're getting down there. We're getting down to it.
Yeah. Yep.
We're
not
down,
far to go now.
We're pretty much down to the final. Well, technically we're at a final 5, but in one game it'll be down to the final 4 of the NHL season. So yeah, it's getting good now. And all 4 teams are legit Stanley Cup contenders. So it is completely wide open at this point. All 5 teams, I should say. All right, so that's all we have to talk about for the playoffs. So let's get into some of the stories that are going on this week. And first and foremost, we got a couple transactions to talk about. And the first 2 I have are actually coach signings. And the first one has a local flair to it because Rod Brind'Amour was named coach of the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Don Waddell was also named Carolina's president and GM that same day. Brind'Amour, who's 47 now, an assistant development coach for Carolina since 2011, will replace Bill Peters, who resigned on April 20th and was hired as the coach of the Flames 3 days later. Brind'Amour was the captain of the Hurricanes when they won the Stanley Cup with the Game 7 victory against the Edmonton Oilers in 2006. Quote from Waddell, Rod is the greatest leader in the history of this franchise and has earned the opportunity to take charge of our locker room. We spoke to a number of candidates for his position, but our conversations with staff and players consistently returned to the same person. Rod's fresh ideas, ability to motivate, and understanding of what it takes to bring a championship to Raleigh will help our young team take the next step towards competing to bring the cup back to North Carolina. Brind'Amour played 20 seasons in the NHL for the Blues, Flyers, and Hurricanes. He's a 2-time winner of the Selke Trophy as the NHL's top defensive forward. An incredible face-off man, too, by the way. Yep. He retired on June 30th of 2010, yet with 1,184 points in 1,484 games. He's excited. Justin Williams said, I'm excited for Rod to have that opportunity. And, of course, Williams played with Brind'Amour on the 2006 Cup-winning team. Williams continues, he's seen so many coaches in his time. He's learned from them. He deserves a chance to make it his own. I've got a lot of time for Rod. He means a lot to me in my hockey career. Absolutely, I'm going to endorse him. Now, it's kind of funny where they include quotes from Justin Williams in there because some of the interviews that have come out since this announcement, Rod Brind'Amour has said that he will at some point name a captain of the team, and it's not necessarily going to be either of the 2 co-captains that Carolina has had over the past season, right? Which tells me one thing, and that they're going to be doing what they should have done last year, and that's name Justin Williams the captain of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Right. I think you're right. Number 1 and number 2, Wayne, I could see this coming. Because and I think Tom Dundon was involved in this quite largely. I think you see the Hurricanes, as I've said before, and we talked about it, picking a guy that the players like and want to play for. I mean, that's what Justin Williams basically said there.
Yep.
They like him. Not only that, they picked a guy that the fans in the Raleigh area, all around North Carolina, people know Rod Brind'Amour.
Yep.
And they like him. They think he deserves a shot. Yep. And if he turns out to be a good coach, then more power to him. But they're willing to give him a chance beyond any other guy at this point right now.
Yep.
Because of those facts. He's liked. Players will lay down the line for him, play hard for him, listen to what he says, respect him. He will have control of that locker room, and the fans love him. So that's how I see it. It's kind of like Dale Hunter. When he returned to the Washington Capitals, he made the decision to leave, but there you go, a guy who the Washington fans knew, the press knew, they loved him.
Yep.
He deserved a shot, and he got it. He decided to take that and go back to being coach of the London Knights, but he left on great terms. This is the same type of thing.
Well, and here's another thing about Rod Brind'Amour too. It's become clear that Tom Dundon really values people that have a really strong work ethic.
Right.
He wants people in that organization who are going to stop at nothing to succeed.
Very good.
As an organization. He's sweeping out all the people that he feels don't have that inner drive to succeed at the highest level. And if there's one thing that we know for certain about Rod Brind'Amour is the guy is a workhorse.
Yep.
He's physically, he still looks like he could get out there and play. I mean, his workout routine is legendary around the Carolina Hurricanes. The way he continues to work out hard like he's a player.
Right.
And he's still in great shape. He looks like he could get right out there and play. And he's basically leading by example. And he's already come out saying that he's not going to accept mediocrity with this team.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to push these players to get the most out of them that those players are able to have. And he said there's a number of players in that room that are leaving effort on the table or have been up until this point. And he said it's going to stop. They're either going to play hard, they're going to play for each other, and they're going to do everything that they can to succeed, or they won't be around anymore.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So, and, he even talked about that saying that the bar has been set too low with this team for a long time. Whereas the bar for the team as a whole has been set at, let's just make the playoffs. Well, you know what? When you set the bar at let's make the playoffs, you're going to finish in 9th or 10th place. He's going to set the bar higher. He's going to say, it's not enough to just make the playoffs. We're going to set the bar at whatever it is, probably win the Stanley Cup. That's essentially how the big teams are doing it. Like Pittsburgh, their goal at the start of every season is it's Stanley Cup or bust.
Yep.
And that's just the general sentiment around the team. It's Stanley Cup or bust. Anything less is unsuccessful. And that's the attitude that the Hurricanes need to have if they want to get to that next level. So should be interesting if he puts the talk to action, but I'm excited to see if he'll light a fire under these guys and get out of them, because that's been my biggest frustration with this team is they'll go out and beat Chicago or a Boston or real strong team, beat them soundly, and then the next night lay an egg against Buffalo and Ottawa.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no excuse for that. Where's the effort, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to watch. So Canes now have a coach. They now have a GM, Don Waddell, who last was the GM of the Atlanta Thrashers, from what I understand. And we'll see how this pair does. So now they have that in place. Now they need to build out their scouting staff and head into the draft and get ready, because it's an important one. They've got the number 2 overall pick.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next transaction is another coach hiring. Jim Montgomery was hired as coach of the Dallas Stars on Friday. The 48-year-old has coached the past 5 seasons at the University of Denver and won the NCAA championship in 2017 with that school. He replaces Ken Hitchcock, who retired on April 13th. Montgomery said he wants the Stars to push the pace and pressure opponents. For the Dallas Stars fan, if you think of an adjective that what we're going to look like, it's going to be relentless, Montgomery said. We're going to be a puck possession team, and we're going to try and make plays everywhere on the ice. When we don't have the puck, we're going to pressure you so we can get it back and make more plays. I think you look at the championship teams that have won in the NHL, those teams play a certain way. There's structure to their game, but there's creativity and flair to it too. I think he's talking about Pittsburgh for sure. You have to let the horses run. Everyone should look the same when we don't have the puck, and when we do have the puck, everyone should play to their strengths. Montgomery is the fourth coach to go directly from college to his first NHL job, joining Philadelphia Flyers coach Dave Haxtell, who came from the University of North Dakota in 2015, Bob Johnson, who went to the Calgary Flames from the University of Wisconsin in 1982, and Ned Harkness, who took over the Detroit Red Wings in 1970 after coaching Cornell. Among the NHL players who played for Montgomery are New Jersey Devils defenseman Will Butcher, Boston Bruins forward Danton Heinen, Anaheim Ducks forward Troy Terry, and Florida Panthers forward Henrik Borgstrom. Montgomery played pro hockey for 12 seasons himself, including 122 NHL games with the Blues, Canadiens, Flyers, Sharks, and Stars. And, of course, I'm going to insert the little ditty that Montgomery is, of course, a University of Maine alum, which is kind of interesting because Dallas' starting goalie is none other than Ben Bishop, who is also a University of Maine alum. So, interesting connection there.
Going to be interesting to watch how this team does with him at the helm.
He's won everywhere he's gone. Before college, he was playing in the U.S. Hockey League, which is the top junior league in the United States, and he won a couple of championships there. And then, of course, he has the national championship with Denver, which is not easy to do. In college hockey, there's over 60 teams. And where every player plays no more than 4 years, putting together a dynasty in college hockey is just not realistic and not easy for sure. So any national championships is good in college hockey.
Agreed.
So it sounds like Dallas, although we know they have the talent to be a very fun team to watch, it sounds like he's going to have them playing almost a Vegas-style game.
Yep.
Because what the adjectives he used to describe the type of team he wants to have, you could use to describe Vegas. Relentless, strong pressure on the puck, speed, creativity. Yeah, that's Vegas's game. So looks like they're all gonna. It is a copycat league after all. Looks like they're gonna try to beat Vegas at their own game next year. All right, last one for the week of transactions. Arizona Coyotes acquired forward Marcus Kruger and a 2018 third-round pick in exchange for forward Jordan Martinook and a 2018 fourth-round pick. And, of course, the Coyotes traded with Carolina in that trade. So, interesting to see trade happening while the playoffs are still going on. But it is allowed. In fact, I think in an interview, Martinook said he didn't even know that trades were allowed during this time of year. But they are, in fact, allowed. If you are a team that is not currently in the playoffs, you can make transactions with other teams who are not currently in the playoffs.
Right.
So that is what, in fact, took place. Kind of a minor trade on the grand scheme of things. Kruger was essentially playing for the Charlotte Checkers.
Yep.
He had been demoted down to the American Hockey League, and Martinook is a third line at best, probably a fourth line forward. So not a real big trade by any stretch. All right, let's move on to injuries, and I'm going to blow through these a little quicker than my show notes would say they are, because most of these injuries are talking about players that are playing for teams that are no longer playing. So you have Corey Schneider, who will possibly miss training camp in September because he had to have surgery on May 1st to repair torn cartilage in his left hip. That's bad news for a goalie. Don't be surprised if Kincaid gets the start at the start of the regular season next year, and while Schneider is still recovering. Left wing Taylor Hall is expected to be ready for the start of training camp after he had surgery to repair torn ligaments in his left hand. Interesting thing about this story is he hurt his hand back in late December, and thinking back at his season, how good he was after that time period. In January, February, and March, he was incredible.
Yep.
And to think that he was playing with a hand injury the whole time, I know you don't like Jersey, but wow.
Yeah.
A healthy Hall.
It's amazing.
Imagine what a healthy Hall will do.
Oh, man. Yep.
Forward Patrick Maroon had surgery to repair a herniated disc in his back on May 2nd. He will be expected to be ready to go before the start of training camp. Boston Bruins came out with a list of injuries to all their players. It's kind of like an annual rite of passage, I guess. Whenever the Bruins get eliminated, whether it be the regular season or in the playoffs, they always come out with a list of injuries that their players had or were currently playing with, which could possibly explain some weaker play from certain players on the team. So here's the list. David Backes, Jake DeBrusk, Kevin Miller, Torrey Krug, let's see, Patrice Bergeron, Riley Nash, Zdeno Chara, Brad Marchand, Noel Acciari. All those players were playing with injuries during that Tampa Bay series.
Yep.
And I still say Charlie McAvoy wasn't 100%. Because he was getting stronger as the playoffs went on, which tells me when he came back into the lineup, he was nowhere near 100%.
Yeah.
And he's just been getting better and better as the playoffs went on.
Agreed. Oh, I agree.
But he had his bout with injuries. So, and then finally, Zach Werenski could possibly miss training camp and the start of next season for Columbus after having shoulder surgery on Thursday. And they're saying a full recovery for Werenski, who's Columbus's best defenseman. They're saying 5 to 6 months for recovery on that one. Yeah. So that tells me he's going to miss the start of the year.
Yeah, it was major surgery.
So, yeah. All right, moving on to suspensions and fines. Let's talk about Brad Marchand a little bit because, you know, nobody's been talking about him lately.
Yeah.
He was put on notice by the NHL on Saturday that his actions in the second period of Game 4 against the Tampa Bay Lightnings on Friday were unacceptable and that similar behavior in the future will be dealt with by way of supplemental discipline. Marchand and Bruins general manager Don Sweeney spoke Saturday with NHL senior executive vice president Colin Campbell. Marchand this season was suspended 5 games for elbowing New Jersey Devils forward Marcus Johansson and was fined for $5,000 for cross-checking Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Andrew McDonald on April 1. He was also suspended 2 games at the end of last season for spearing Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Jake Dotchin, 3 games for clipping Ottawa Senators defenseman Mark Borowiecki in 2015-16, 2 games for slew-footing the Rangers forward Derek Brassard in 2014-15, and 5 games for clipping Vancouver Canucks defenseman Sami Salo in 2011-12. Marchand ranks 4th in the Stanley Cup playoff scores with 17 points in 11 games. He was Boston's leading scorer in the regular season with 85 points, with 34 goals, 51 assists. So, and obviously the actions that we're all speaking of was the so-called licking incident.
With Ryan Callahan.
And, of course, before that, there was the licking incident with Leo Komarov of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this licking thing has come from, but Marchand has also since admitted that he realizes he needs to stop with these antics, and he's going to work hard at changing his ways. We'll see if that ultimately happens. But
well, you know me. I stick up for the guy. I really do. Most of the time, I see it as a smaller guy who's not going to take what people dish out to him on the ice. However, this time, the Leo Komarov incident, I thought was one where he's like, I'm going to pull this guy's strings and see if I can get him to respond. But doing it this time with Ryan Callahan was just, I didn't follow the logic. If he was trying to get under his skin, It was not. I don't understand it. I got to say, if I was talking to him, what were you thinking there doing that? I don't get that one.
Yep.
The Ryan Callahan incident. Take the rest of them and throw them out. A lot of times I support the guy because I understand he's retaliating. He likes to get even. Maybe you say it like that. Okay, that's fine. But a lot of times I see it as he's passionate in what he's doing because he's defending a teammate, or he's defending himself against an attack that was unwarranted.
Yep.
This time I don't see that. I see it as the aggressor going out and doing something really kind of foolish. Put your teams in the playoffs, playing for their playoff lives against a very good opponent, Tampa Bay. And I just felt like that was the one where I was like, I don't understand. I'm not.
Yeah. All right. Enough's enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of it is gamesmanship. I get that. And, you know, seeing Marchand do what he does makes me wish that we had a channel, like an HBO style channel, where, you know, going in that you're going to be subjected to language that is certainly not ideal for work or certainly not around kids. I wish there was a channel that all the players were mic'd. Whatever sport you're watching, all the players are mic'd. All the referees are mic'd, and you get to hear all the chatter that's going on the ice. If such a channel existed, Marchand would be constant, because that's what he is. He's constantly talking out there, constantly trash talking the other team, and it goes on. And occasionally he steps over the line, and this was one of those cases. And of course, there's no official rule in the book about licking another player,
right?
Which is why the NHL really, at this point, had no leg to stand on in terms of disciplining him.
Right.
The referees on the ice couldn't do anything about it because he wasn't really doing anything to them other than just licking them in the cheek.
Right.
So they, basically came out and it went to the Bruins and said, look, you guys got to get him to stop doing this stuff. It's making us look horrible.
Right.
And, and the league used terms of, embarrassing to the game and detrimental to the, all these terms that you hear. And, making the game look bad and so on and so on, And I say, yeah, okay, I agree with that. But this whole thing is not the only, and I'm not trying to deflect, but this whole thing is not the only thing that is embarrassing and is detrimental to the game. The epidemic of diving that's been going on around the league, and everybody's guilty. Every team has a player or two that's guilty of diving, including the Bruins. I think that in terms of if the league is trying to crack down on embarrassing actions by players, I think the diving that's going on is far more embarrassing and detrimental to the game than a guy going around sticking his tongue out at everybody.
Right. Agreed.
So, not to go off on a tangent, but I'm just fed up with all the diving that's going on.
You bring up a point, though, where, maybe that is what Brad Marchand was trying to do, because the look on Ryan Callahan's face was one of disgust and anger, fury.
Yeah.
That Brad Marchand would do that. And, the only thing I can think is he knew when he did it, they couldn't retaliate. There's nothing the referees could do to him. There's no penalty. And there's no fine or suspension that the NHL can levy against him.
I bet you're going to see a rule come out, though.
Oh, there'll be something. Yeah. But, that may be why he did it. I'll do something to you that there's nothing you can do against me.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. But it sure made for entertaining TV, and in between periods, I was watching them talk about that. So,
I'm sure they were. Those, And if you were watching the CBC broadcast, I'm sure there was no love lost there, because there's one thing that I know is that a Canadian hockey fan does not like Brad Marchand, even though he's Canadian.
Yeah.
And he plays for Team Canada in major international events. Hell, he was on Sidney Crosby's line there at the last what was it? The World Cup of Hockey, playing for Team Canada. But I know Montreal fans don't like Marchand. Toronto fans certainly don't like Marchand.
No, they hate him.
And with those two teams right there, that's about a quarter of all hockey fans combined.
Yeah.
You take Toronto and Montreal fans and put them in a room.
Yeah.
Because those two teams have such huge fan bases. But they're united in the hatred for Marchand. So
Think about him at the All-Star game, too, in Tampa Bay. They certainly don't like him down there either.
No, they don't.
They despise him.
No, they
Tampa
don't.
Bay.
Yep. That is true.
Blowing kisses to the crowd,
Yep.
As he came out.
And I keep seeing this picture popping up on social media of Marchand posing in front of a fan, a Tampa Bay fan holding up a big sign pressed right up against the glass. It's obviously during warm-ups. And the big sign says, "Exterminate the rat." And it's a cartoon picture of Marchand in his Bruins jersey, but his head is a rat. But the rat has a big nose like Marchand has, and it's kind of funny. And it's "Exterminate the rat." So what does Marchand do? He goes over there and poses for a picture with one of the photographers who happens to be on the ice and going by. Marchand goes and stands over next to the sign and smiles like
yeah.
like
he's a colorful guy, let me tell you.
Yep, he is for sure. So anyway, he's one of those players. You love him if he's on your team. You hate him if he's not. But he's a good player, and he did admit that he needs to kind of tone that stuff down and at least try to get it out of his game, because when he's sitting in the penalty box, the Bruins suffer for it, and he knows.
He's a leading scorer. Leading scorer this year.
Yeah, and he does a lot of the stuff in his mind. He thinks he's helping the team by kind of mentally taking other players on other teams off their game. But when he crosses the line, he knows that it's a detriment to his team, and he's got to learn that line. He's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And let's hope that he does.
That's a very good point, Wayne. That's a very good point.
So, so let's hope he does so for his sake. So he'll have the summer to think about it, and then we'll see what he does in the fall. All right, Washington Capitals forward Tom Wilson was suspended for 3 games for an illegal check to the head of Pittsburgh Penguins forward Zach Aston Reese during Game 3 of the team's second-round series in Pittsburgh on Tuesday. The NHL's Department of Player Safety announced on Wednesday, and this was last Wednesday, not tonight. And, of course, this announcement came out after we recorded our podcast, because we did talk about this incident on last week's podcast, so there's no need to go into detail about it. We all know what happened, but ultimately it came out that the league decided to suspend him for 3 games, which ended up being the last 3 games of this series. So he'll be back for Game 1.
Yeah.
Against Tampa Bay. All right. As far as other interesting stories, and this one here, there's really not much to mention other than the fact that it's an example of how much of a zoo the Toronto media can be. Even though the team's knocked out, even though all the players have pretty much gone their separate ways, gone back to wherever they hang out in the summertime, the story came out that Mike Babcock is planning a visit to Austin Matthews at his home state of Arizona. The Leafs coach and the 20-year-old center each denied there were problems between the two after Toronto was eliminated by the Bruins in Game 7 of the first round on April 25th. Elliot Friedman reported that it is an effort to clear the air and address any problems they may have. So, where there's smoke, there's fire, as far as I'm concerned. So, it looks like Babcock and Matthews are not getting along.
Yeah.
And we've seen this before with Babcock, where I know there's one podcast I listen to, and you've listened to him too in the past, Spit and Chicklets.
Right.
There's one of the announcers on the Spit and Chicklets is a former NHL player, and he's been very vocal in that there are a lot of players out there who do not like Babcock, don't like his style of coaching, don't agree with his philosophies, and the fact that he is as successful as he is that he's always aligned himself with really, really good teams.
Right.
He's never taken over a bad roster. I don't know. There's not a whole lot here other than the fact that it seems to be that Matthews and Babcock have some stuff they need to work out. But the fact that this happened in Toronto tells me, any other team these two are playing on, we probably don't even know.
Right.
But the Toronto media is such a zoo, such a circus. Montreal is the same way. That there are no secrets. Secrets eventually get out in those two cities.
So he's going to Arizona to leave that zoo.
Possibly, yeah. But if the Toronto media finds out when and where Babcock is going, there's going to be a small contingent of them following him.
Sure.
So
they ought to plan a meeting in the Grand Canyon somewhere,
so nobody can follow them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a couple burrows down the side of the canyon mountain into the canyon, the basin of the canyon, and have their meeting there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah. All right. And this one's a bit of a sad note. Bill Torrey, the architect of the New York Islanders dynasty in the early 80s and member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, died on Wednesday. He was 83 years old. I don't remember Torrey that much because he was running the Islanders when I was real young. This was the very early days. This is when the Islanders won their 4 Stanley Cups.
Mm-hmm.
And he was basically the architect behind that team.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, that team is known for winning 19 straight playoff series, which still is the record today. That's 4 Stanley Cups, and then in the 5th year, you're going to the Stanley Cup final before losing.
Yep.
So that's how far back that castle goes.
Yep.
All right. That is all I have for other stories for this week.
Yep.
And I didn't have any honors or milestones either.
Right.
So if
Really?
you've got any other stories to add, feel free.
I don't have any, Wayne, and there really were no honors and milestones that I'm aware of.
No, all the award nominees were all announced last week. So
yep, everything was. It was finalized last week, and there really hasn't been any milestones that I'm aware of in the few number of games since our last podcast.
Yep. Okay, so that leads us to the power ranking.
Power rankings are real short and sweet this week too, Wayne.
Well, they're getting shorter every week. There's fewer and fewer teams playing. We're down to 5 teams. So
we're down to 5 teams. I have 9 on my list because just a couple nights ago there were 7 teams.
Yep.
And so I did.
Yeah, and a couple nights before that there were 8. So
yep. I did 9 teams, Wayne, and I kept my honorable mention this week.
All right.
I kept my honorable mention of number 9, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the best team in the first round that did not make it through to the second round. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay. Agreed.
Number 8, the San Jose Sharks.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7 is the Boston Bruins.
Okay.
Number 6, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Okay.
Right now, I have it as number 5, the Nashville Predators.
Fair enough.
because when I wrote these out, they were down 3-2.
Yep.
Number 4, the Washington Capitals. Number 3, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 2, the Vegas Golden Knights. And when I wrote this out 2 nights ago, the Winnipeg Jets were up 3-2, getting ready to play a game on home ice. And I figured, well, they're probably going to win. I think they're going through to the Western Conference Finals. Now, that might not happen.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to stick my neck out on the line and go with them another night and see if they can pull that game out in Nashville.
Yep. Yeah, I honestly don't have a preference on those two teams for tomorrow night's game. I want to see both teams succeed. I'd like to see Nashville win a cup for their fans because their fans have been so loyal. I'd also like to see Winnipeg win a cup for their fans because, you know, their fans are just nuts for their team, and they've going back even to the old Winnipeg Jets.
Yep.
They've never experienced a Stanley Cup, and they've always been buried behind great teams in Edmonton, Calgary, and L.A.
Yep.
When they were playing in the old Smythe division. So yeah, I want to see both teams succeed. So I'm just going to enjoy tomorrow night's game, and may the best team win. And you know, I'll continue rooting for whatever team advances in that series. So all right, I don't have any arguments with that power ranking.
I guess if Nashville wins, of course I'm wrong about it. I'd put Nashville though. I'd move Winnipeg to number 5.
Yep.
And put Nashville at 4. I wouldn't put them. I'd move Vegas up to 1, Tampa Bay to 2, Washington to 3, and have the Nashville Predators at number 4, followed by Vegas as an honorable mention. That's how I do it.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. So now we're already on to the Minor League Hockey Minute.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to continue the theme that I've been doing with mine over the past few weeks, in that I want to touch on a couple of leagues or a couple of divisions that are going on. Of course, I've been putting some time into the Under-18 World Championships, but that has since ended. That ended a week or so ago. But internationally, the World Championships are going on this week.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they're going on basically through the 20th of May. So, in fact, there's already been an announcement that a couple of players, a bunch of players that just got eliminated in the second round of the NHL playoffs are actually going to join their teams, their respective countries over there in Denmark. So, 2 of which are David Krejci and David Pastrnak are going to join the Czech Republic team. So, but here we are in the World Championships, and I'm trying to pull up the standings real quick here. No, not there. All right. And we have 2 groups going on in that tournament. And as of right now, all teams have either played 3 or 4 games. I believe they will play 7 games apiece before they move on to the elimination rounds, where they'll play each team in their group. Group A includes Sweden, Russia, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, France, Austria, and Belarus. Group B includes Finland, USA, Canada, Latvia, Denmark, who's the host country, Germany, Norway, and Korea. As of right now, in Group A, Sweden is in first place with 4 wins in 4 games. Russia is in second with a 3-0 record. Interesting to note with these 2 teams are definitely dominating this Group A. Sweden, in their 4 games, have scored 19 goals, have allowed 2.
Yeah.
Russia, in their 3 games, has scored 20 goals and have allowed none.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have the game-by-game listing in front of me. It's possible Russia might have already played France, Austria, and Belarus, you know, where we would expect them to win in dominating fashion. But right now, those two teams are running away with Group A.
Right.
And I believe the top, I could be wrong, the top 4 advance onto the quarterfinal.
Yeah, I think it is the quarterfinals.
Yeah. So the top 4 in each pool will advance out of 8.
Single elimination.
Yep. Now in Group B, Finland has been dominating in Group B, but they got their first loss today, and they lost to the host team, Denmark, which was kind of surprising. But Finland is now 3-1, sitting at the top of Group B. They've scored 25 goals and have 5 against. USA is in second in Group B with a 3-0 record. They've only played 3 games, but one of those games is in overtime, whereas Finland's 3 wins were all in regulation. And then in third place is Canada with a 2-0-1 record, and fourth place right now is Latvia, which is a little bit surprising. So pretty much things going as expected right now. And pool play continues into next week. And had a pop up here. All right, pool play is continuing, and then as we get down to it, we'll have a quarterfinal, semifinal, and then a final, all single elimination. Of course, you have a bronze medal game as well. So, and I'm hoping the NHL Network picks up some of these games. I haven't looked at the TV schedule, but because the countries of Sweden, Russia, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Finland, USA, Canada, and to some extent Germany, all feature lots and lots of NHL players on their rosters. So it's basically everybody who is outside the NHL playoffs are eligible to send players over there. So, and with only 4 teams left playing, or 5 teams at this moment, there's lots of really good players playing over there.
Oh, yeah.
Just to give you an example, and I'll pull it up here. Playing for Team USA, Keith Kincaid is in net. We all know his name. Scott Darling is a backup, Carolina's goalie. Doubt he'll play a game over there. Let's see. Leading scorers for Team USA, Johnny Gaudreau with 3 points. Chris Kreider with 4. Patrick Kane with 5. Cam Atkinson with 4. Some good players on Team USA. For Team Canada, you have players like Aaron Ekblad playing defense. He's got 4 points. Josh Bailey with 4 points. Matt Barzal with 6. Pierre-Luc Dubois with 4. Tyson Yost with 4. Connor McDavid with 7 points. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 3. Ryan O'Reilly with 3. So you got a lot of really good players there as well. Goalkeepers for Canada, Curtis McElhaney and Darcy Kemper. These are all familiar names to those of us hockey fans out there. And, of course, let's see. Pull up Russia's roster. Let's see who's on their roster. There's a lot of KHL names on their roster, but it's a mix. Let's see here. All right. Pavel Datsyuk. We know that name. Nikita Zaitsev. Artem Anisimov. Pavel Buchnevich. I know you know that name. Evgeny Dadonov. Nikita Nestorov. I don't see our guy KHL. What's his name? Mozyakin.
Sergei Mozyakin.
Yeah, I don't see his name. Did he not playing over there?
You know what? I haven't kept tabs on it. He may just say, "Hey, look, I want the time off to be with my family."
Yep. Or has Putin stepped in and decided that only his SKA St. Petersburg players get to play over there? Because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players from SKA St. Petersburg on the roster.
Igor Shestyorkin.
Yep.
The goalie.
Yep.
SKA.
Yep.
A New York Rangers prospect, but the chances of him coming and playing for New York when he's with SKA are slim.
Yep. Yep, but it's probably 2/3 KHL players, 1/3 NHL players for the Team Russia. So anyway, yeah, if you could catch some of those games on TV, definitely do so because it's fun hockey to watch. I know they've shown highlights on NHL Network if you do have that. So that is also something that is available. All right, and the other thing I've been talking about in my minor league hockey minute is the American Hockey League playoffs. Mm-hmm. And let's get you caught up on what's been going on over there. We're in the second round in the AHL playoffs. And right now, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms are leading their series with the Charlotte Checkers 2-1. Oh, why does that keep going away? All right. Toronto Marlies are leading their series against... Actually, they won their series. It's over already. Toronto Marlies beat the Syracuse Crunch 4-0, a 4-game sweep. Manitoba Moose are down 2-0 against the Rockford Ice Hogs. And the Tucson Roadrunners are down 2-1 against the Texas Stars. So that's where we stand in the American Hockey League playoffs. So, and obviously the team that we're most interested in is our local Charlotte Checkers. We've been to 2 of their games already this year, and I continue to get text messages from their ticket staff trying to sell me tickets for playoff games. I'd love to go, but I just haven't had time.
Yes, it would be fun to go down, but it's a difficult time for me as well.
Yep. So, anyway, but we are watching from afar. But,
yes.
And I keep saying, as well as Nedeljkovic is playing down there in Charlotte, it's time to give him a shot up in Carolina. Give him a legitimate, at least a backup spot where he plays 20, 25 games in a season. Mm-hmm. Give him a legitimate shot to see what he can do at the NHL level.
Agreed.
So, all right. What is your minor league hockey minute?
My minor league hockey minute, Wayne, deals with an article I pulled off the ECHL website. And if any of you listeners are out there this week and you actually went on the ECHL, there is a rather lengthy article, which I kind of paraphrased. I did not put the whole article in here, but it's very interesting. It's entitled, "A Superhero-Sized Jersey Collection Continues to Grow." This is a story about a gentleman named Tom Altman who has converted the basement in his house in Littleton, Colorado. The article goes like this. Take a trip to the basement of Tom Altman's Littleton, Colorado home, and you might think for a second that you've been transferred to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. The walls of the basement painted to look like dasher boards at an arena. A tribute to the sport appears in every inch of space the eye can see. Skates, pucks, signage, and over 100 jerseys, that number increasing by the week. Featured prominently in Altman's collection are 8 different sweaters from the ECHL's league-wide program, and I think we reported this on the program, with Marvel Comics. The first of its kind program, announced in October of 2017 from Frame Comic Book Store, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, allowed each ECHL team to host a Marvel superhero game during the 2017-18 regular season, and the right to wear specialty jerseys featuring select Marvel characters. For Altman's, the announcement of the partnership between the two brands was an exciting one, as he knew it would provide an opportunity for him to add to his already sizable collection. Though a self-described rink rat now, Altman's didn't have the affinity he does now for the sport that influenced his basement design. So I didn't get into hockey until 1994, 1995, when we had the Denver Grizzlies, the IHL tickets, 3 or 4 rows off the ice. They had 2 seats back to back, and he could not give those tickets away. Nobody knew anything about hockey, so we ended up going to a bunch of hockey games, and that ended up getting me going for hockey. Being a fan of the game, I really wanted my son to play. Though Altmans didn't grow up on skates himself, his son Jake, now 16, took the sport up at a young age, which further cemented his father's interest in the sport. While Jake learned the fundamentals on the ice, his dad quickly discovered something any hockey player, fan, or collector would know. A hockey jersey is so much more than just a necessary part of the sports uniform. It's a statement, a memory, and in some instances, a connection to someone else. So the man who never laced up the skates himself quickly became an avid collector of game-worn jerseys from all levels of the sport. Everyone in my household is a big Marvel Comics fan. Myself and my girlfriend are comic book fans, Altman stated, noting that he attends nearly every Marvel movie in the theaters. So as the jerseys featuring various Marvel characters were released throughout the 2017-18 season by ECHL teams, Altmans couldn't help himself. He was especially thrilled to see the Hulk in the group of characters used by the ECHL teams for these specialty jerseys. As the Marvel superhero ECHL games took place at various times of the season, Altman strategically monitored them, knowing his collection wouldn't be complete without securing several of the game-worn superhero jerseys. I've bid on at least 10 or 11. I've been trying to get one of every style. They're just really neat jerseys, really different stuff. I was actually planning on wearing one of them to the Infinity Wars when that comes out. I've got 8 of them and every style except for 2. I've got 2 Captain Americas, 2 Hulks, 2 Iron Mans, and 2 Thors. Over 100 jerseys, and increasing, could take up a significant amount of closet or basement space for anyone. So Altman's makes sure his jerseys never collect too much dust. I literally started wearing a different jersey to every practice his son Jake goes to, every game. This year, he was actually playing on 3 different teams, a varsity, a JV, and a club team, so I was switching up jerseys all the time. It's kind of an icebreaker, you know. People see something cool and something they've never seen before, so they start up a conversation with you. But with a jersey collection that's constantly growing, how do you narrow down a favorite? Altman's briefly had to take a second and think of his. I have a jersey from my son's season 2 years ago. It was his first year being an assistant captain, and my mom sewed his A on his chest, so that's probably my big one. Dads, the original superheroes. And that is my minor league hockey minute.
And now I was able to find that article, and I pulled it up, and wow, that is quite a collection.
He does have a large collection of jerseys, and there's a picture there that kind of shows his basement there from a pretty good. You get a kind of a feel for what he's done.
And it looks like most of those jerseys are minor league jerseys too.
Yeah, most of his collection is from the ECHL, I believe.
Yeah.
So, and I guess it really took shape once he started collecting Marvel Comics jerseys.
Yeah, and the picture shows that he has, and you know what? I see that, and I'm like, you know what? I'd like to do my room like that, my office, make it look like dashboard. So the bottom half. So he's got a chair rail going through the middle of the room, which would be it's painted red as the top. The top of the most dashboards and most rinks. Of course, every rink does things a little bit different. And then the bottom is yellow, and then you got the white as the boards. And then above that is the walls painted blue, and he's got framed jerseys, he's got framed tickets and sports memorabilia all over the wall, and then hanging from a beam that appears to be going right through the middle of the basement is just a bunch of clothes hangers with a whole bunch of jerseys on them. So,
yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a Quite a
Quite a
deal.
collection, and really, really not an NHL collection.
Nope.
Most of what he has is minor league teams, and a lot of them deal with the teams right there in the Colorado area. So
Yep.
he's very much.
I see a Charlotte Checkers jersey there.
Yeah, there is one. There's a Checkers jersey on his wall.
Yep.
Or Hurricanes.
It has the Hurricane logo on the shoulder, which tells me that's probably a Checkers jersey. Because they wear the Checkers logo on the front and the Hurricanes logo. Generally, the team that is their parent club, and a lot of these minor league teams, they wear the parent club's logo on the shoulder, and then the team's main crest on the front. But we can't see that full jersey, so we don't know for sure. It looks exactly like the old style Hurricanes jersey with the hurricane warning flag at the bottom part of the jersey that they used to have. So, but yeah, it's quite a collection, and reminds me of one of the YouTubers that I follow. And I've mentioned him a couple of times on this podcast, the Hockey Guy. He's on YouTube. If you do a search for the Hockey Guy on YouTube, he's got a jersey collection that he's continuing to add to. Seems like every week now he's putting out a video where he's unboxing another couple jerseys he's ordered. I don't know where he gets his money for these jerseys, but damn, he's got close to 150 jerseys in his collection, and they're all NHL jerseys, or almost all of them are NHL jerseys. He just likes to collect all the various iterations of jerseys for several different. He's got like 6 or 8 Boston Bruins jerseys. He's got several jerseys from every team, homes and aways, classic looks. Third jerseys, you name it, he's got them. So I envy folks that have collections of jerseys like this, but as much as I'd like to have a collection of jerseys like that, I don't think I'd want it because I just don't have the space for it.
Agreed. and you couldn't wear them all, But
you'd have to wear jerseys all the time.
Yep.
If you're going to wear all those.
And that includes in the summer.
Right, when it's hot. Here in the South, once you get past pretty much, it's been warm this week, so I'd say once you get past May 1st, you don't want to be wearing hockey jerseys outside.
Yep.
Until about October 1st, and then it starts cooling down enough to wear jerseys. So yeah, not a fun thing to wear in the South in the summer for sure, unless you're indoors. All right. Well, since we're on your pick of the week, why don't we go ahead and do your pick of the week? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can go ahead and get mine finished.
And my pick of the week just talks about how Tampa Bay Lightning's John Cooper is a fan of the Boston Bruins. So yeah.
That actually caught my eye. I'm wanting to hear that story. So let me get mine out of the way.
Yep.
I had to write about this though. I had to put this down as my pick of the week, and I have featured this gentleman as a pick of the week more than once before. But this time, for the sake of his play so far in the National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoffs, I had to put him down as my pick of the week again because I'm very happy for the guy. And that is Alexander Ovechkin. Ovechkin, the article I have from NHL.com, Ovechkin gets first taste of Eastern Conference Final. Capitals eliminate the Penguins. Alex Ovechkin was the last player in line for the Washington Capitals, and Sidney Crosby was the first for the Pittsburgh Penguins, so it took a while for their paths to cross. Their roles were reversed this time after the Capitals' 2-1 overtime victory in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference second round on Monday, which propelled them to the conference final for the first time in 20 years. After a handshake of respect and a friendly pat on the chest, Crosby offered his best wishes, and they each moved on. "Just wish me good luck," Ovechkin said. "I've been in his position lots of times." Ovechkin, 32, has waited 13 seasons for this. Three times, including the past 2 seasons, Crosby and the Penguins ended the Capitals' season, and Ovechkin had to wish them good luck. Then he watched Pittsburgh go on to win the Stanley Cup each time. Now, the Capitals advance to face the Tampa Bay Lightning, and continue the chase for their first Stanley Cup championship. Nobody expected we were going to be in this position before this season. In this game and in this playoffs, Ovechkin said, we beat, this is his word speak, we beat the twice Stanley Cup champion, and it gives us pretty good feeling about ourselves. The Penguins won 9 of the previous 10 Stanley Cup playoff series between the rivals and were 9-1 when facing elimination against the Capitals. Washington's lone victory came in 6 games in the 1994 Eastern Conference quarterfinals. In the Ovechkin-Crosby era, which began when they each entered the league in 2005-06, the Capitals had gone 0-6 when they were within 1 of reaching the conference final. So when Ovechkin saw Kuznetsov finish off his breakaway and the Pittsburgh crowd went silent, his reaction was understandable. Thank God this happened, Ovechkin said. And that was his first thought. We move forward, and now I can't wait for when is going to be the next game and get ready for Tampa.
Just seemed to be an over. It just seemed
definitely Ovechkin speak. No matter how many goals he scored in the regular season, 607, or in the playoffs, 54, Ovechkin was always reminded that he couldn't get past the second round. Ovechkin and his 15 points in this playoff season, 15 points, 8 goals, 7 assists in the 12 NHL playoff games that he's played, including 7, 3 goals, and 4 assists in 6 games against the Penguins. He scored the winning goal in a 4-3 victory in Game 3. You'll remember that goal. That was a highlight reel one, if ever there was one.
Yep.
Then he set up Jakub Vrana's winner in the 6-3 victory in Game 5 before setting up Kuznetsov's overtime goal Monday night. Without a doubt, he is the most valuable player on the Washington Capitals. The people that are going to say something about Alex, I don't think he worries about them, Capitals owner Ted Leonsis said. Alex's place in history is pretty set, and now he said that he doesn't care about individual accolades. He wants the team to win. I think you saw that. You saw how hard he hustled. He threw the big pass for the win. That's a moment that says how he's arrived as a player. Ovechkin's comment, we believe in each other. The situation is it doesn't matter what happened. We have to stick together. It's a great feeling right now, and we're going forward. So my hat's off to Alex Ovechkin. We have talked about how the Capitals have choked in the past, but they certainly didn't do it so far in this playoffs. And I'm looking forward to this series against Tampa Bay. I'm not going to be pulling for them. So I hope the Washington Capitals finally arrive on the scene and make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, my take on the initial reaction of right after they scored the goal was it just seemed to be overwhelming relief on the face of Ovechkin that they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like you could tell the pressure was really on him, or he was certainly putting himself through a lot of pressure.
Yep, I think so. I think that's a perfect way to say it. And, they saved a man in Barry Trotz that doesn't matter what happens now. I think he'll be back next year. Yep. I don't think that he has anything to worry about. That was the monkey that he had to get off his back, and he did it.
Yep, they certainly did. All right. Well, mine was an interesting article that I found this week. Turns out that Lightning head coach John Cooper is a closet Boston Bruins fan. Or at least he was when he was growing up anyway. Probably not these days. It's an article written by Dave Stubbs for NHL.com. John Cooper cherishes his battered 1974 Bobby Orr hockey card, collected when he was a boy, later signed in ballpoint pen in the mid-'80s by the legendary Boston Bruins defenseman in Vancouver, and preserved by the Tampa Bay Lightning coach since that day in a small gold frame. After Orr moved on from the Bruins, signing with the Chicago Blackhawks in 1976, Cooper's affection as a fan transitioned to Ray Bourque, another Hall of Fame defenseman who excelled in Boston's black and gold from 1979 to 2000. Turn the clock ahead to this week, and there was Cooper behind the Lightning bench at TD Garden in Boston, Tampa Bay defeating the Bruins 4-1 in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference second round on Wednesday. In a suite during the game, shown on the scoreboard to roaring fans, was Bobby Orr himself with Boston Red Sox pitching icon Pedro Martinez, the latter enthusiastically waving a Bruins rally towel to whip up the crowd. And then during Game 4 on Friday, a 4-3 overtime victory, Bourque was shown doing likewise with retired linebacker Teddy Bruschi, a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. For Cooper, who grew up a Bruins fan in Prince George, British Columbia, it obviously was business before fan worship. With 2 of his heroes in the building, the coach guided the Lightning to 2 wins on Boston ice and to within 1 victory of reaching the conference final. And, of course, Tampa Bay did ultimately win that series 4-1 in that series. And, of course, the article goes on talking about, Bruins were going to need all kinds of help from these legendary players, for however way they can anyway. That's pretty much the comments on that. He was pretty much a Bobby Orr and Ray Bourque fan. Of course, Ray Bourque was my favorite player growing up as a kid too. So
that's quite something.
My favorite Bruin. I
never picture. He just doesn't look to me like a Bruins fan, John Cooper. But
especially living out in British Columbia.
Yeah,
it must not have been.
That's a good point.
Not have been too popular with the, obviously most of his friends were probably all Canucks fans out there.
Yeah.
Of course, in those days, Canucks weren't really a great team to root. They had an occasional Stanley Cup final run. I think they went back in the 80s. They went once to the Stanley Cup final, and then didn't the Rangers beat the Canucks in their Stanley Cup year too?
That's right, 1994.
Yeah, and then
4-3.
And then the Bruins beat the Canucks in 2011. So the Canucks have flirted with success, but they've never won a Stanley Cup themselves. But he was a Bruins fan growing up.
Very, very interesting.
Yep. So, all right. That is all that we have for this week.
That's right. We've come to the end again.
Yep.
But I'm looking forward to reporting next week. We'll have all 4 teams, and they will have completed several games in the conference finals in which they play.
Yep.
This is a very exciting time of the year. I can pay particular attention to the games because there's only one being played each night, and it should be really interesting. The Washington Capitals, I tell you, you can say what you want to about Vegas and their magical season, but to see the Washington Capitals in the conference finals is quite something.
Yep.
And I look forward to how that series against Tampa Bay especially. That should be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, clearly we have one game to talk about next week in this current round. That's that Game 7 with the Preds and the Jets. And after that, we'll be talking about probably Games 1, 2, and maybe 3, depending on the timing of our next podcast of each of the conference final rounds. But here's where it gets fun. Here's where you get to see the fan frenzy in full effect, because once you reach the conference finals, that's when all the bandwagoners are all on board, and you see all kinds of events going on around the arenas, outside, inside, and all around the city. Yeah, this is the best time of year anyway.
Absolutely.
To be a hockey fan. So with that, we'll go ahead and end it. And until next week, we will catch you then. So we'll see you next week, Steve.
Have a good week, Wayne.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, you too. All right.
Yeah, the podcasts are going to be short, I guess now, with the way they are.
Well, until we start talking draft and free agency, and we'll get back into those, because there'll be tons of transactions during those times.
Yeah. But, it's on my mind, so I'll throw it out to you. If you can get together for lunch